Congressman Madison Cawthorn confirms he will be running in the redrawn District 13, which includes McDowell, Rutherford, and Polk counties, as well as Cleveland, Gaston, Burke, and part of Mecklenburg, but not Congressman Cawthorn's home county, Henderson. Tonight, Congressman Cawthorn is joining us here in the studio live. Let's get right over to News 13's Hannah McKenzie with more on that. Hannah?
Hey there, good evening, everyone. Well, like Ty said, let's get right into it. Congressman Cawthorn, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I know it was a little bit late last minute, but so was your announcement. You have announced that you are switching districts. You will now be going over to District 13, newly drawn District 13. Now, in that announcement that you made on social media, and I will quote you on this, you did say that you are moving over there to stop a go-along, get-along Republican from taking that role. Now, who exactly were you talking about when you said that?
Well, you know, in the 14th Congressional District, which is predominantly what the 11th used to be, we have seen an incredible groundswell of support in conservative movements that have been all around the area, which are able to mobilize ground forces to be able to win elections very quickly. But none of that exists in District 13, the newly drawn congressional district. And so I fear that, really just kind of an established, state rep or state senator or whatever it is, would be able to come in and just because they have the prior organizational capabilities, they would be able to win this race. And I don't think that's how it should go.
Okay. So, you've got critics out there, as every politician does. What do you say to those critics who say that you may be switching districts just to boost your own political career?
Well, one, I think that's absolutely incorrect. A lot of people I've heard might consider this as some kind of abandonment of my old district. I don't think that at all. I think it's an advancement of the conservative movement. To me, I believe that the biggest problem in Washington, D.C. is that we don't have a unified Republican Party that's surrounded by America First conservative messaging. And I really believe that we'll be able to, if I go to the 13th district, get a great patriot here in the 14th congressional district. That means we will have double the punching power in Washington.
So that leads me to my next question. Congressman, you are leaving District 11, which is soon to be known as District 14. Who do you endorse as your successor? You
know what? I believe my predecessor really played the role of kingmaker after he left in the last election. And that's not something I want to do at all. That'd be my legacy here. I'm going to leave it up to the people. If I do make an endorsement, it'll be after the first primary debates, once we have all really had an opportunity to see where everyone stands.
Okay, and as we mentioned a little earlier, you are now moving districts. You're leaving your own home district of Henderson County. Why leave home, and what would you maybe say to your constituents who are maybe a little upset that you're no longer going to be representing them?
Well, the biggest thing I want to emphasize is that this is a federal position. So no matter where I go, I will be representing them in Washington, D.C. I will be fighting for the same principles that propelled me to Congress in the very beginning. But I think once people realize that this is not a decision about personal preference. It's completely about the strategy of making sure we have more conservatives in Washington, D.C. This is taking ground on behalf of conservatism. And I think once people realize that, they realize they elected a fighter, and I'm going out there and fighting for them.
Alrighty, well, Congressman Cawthorn, we appreciate you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, and we're going to send it back to Ty.
Thank you, Hannah.
All right, Hannah, and today we caught up with several candidates who were planning to run against Congressman Cawthorn. News 13's Hannah McKenzie has their reaction.
I will be running for Congress in the 13th Congressional District.
Congressman Madison Cawthorn confirms he's switching districts. The District 11 incumbent, soon to be the newly formed District 14 following recent redistricting, is now running in redrawn District 13.
This move is not an abandonment. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It is a move to take more ground for constitutional conservatism. In my heart, I represent North Carolina as a whole, not some arbitrary line that some politician drew this cycle. This was not an easy decision.
Cawthorn's opponents saying either way, it doesn't matter. Here's Republican candidate Rod Honeycutt.
I didn't get in a race, depending on an incumbent or not incumbent. I got in a race to run as Rod Honeycutt. Welcome anyone who comes or anyone who leaves. We're going to continue the same strategy. We're running on maturity, leadership, education, and knowledge. Experience and knowledge, we're going to continue to run on that.
And Democratic candidate Eric Gash.
What would you say he has done that maybe you don't agree with that you would do differently?
It's almost like, where do you begin? But first and foremost, politicians in the past, they've used this seat as a launching pad to further their political careers. And you hear people say it all the time that I'm not a politician. Well, I'm going to echo that sentiment. And I'm not a politician, but what I am is a public servant.
Wendy Navarez, a Republican.
Why do you think he would consider switching districts?
Well, it's strategic. I think that he is not one person thinking for himself necessarily. It's an establishment thing, and You know, people want to get the majority, and so therefore they're willing to move people around in the broader scheme of things.
And Jasmine Beach-Ferrara, Democrat.
Cawthorn has prioritized both an extremist agenda that is absolutely out of touch with the values and priorities of Western North Carolina, and building his own political brand through stunts and headline-grabbing efforts over his responsibilities as an elected official.
The filing period runs from December 6th to December 17th.
Since the COVID pandemic began, hundreds of thousands of employees have left their jobs at long-term care facilities.
News 13's Rex Hodge has the numbers at one mountain nursing home where staffing levels may drop due to the federal vaccine mandate.
According to a national survey, since the pandemic began, nursing homes have seen a staffing level drop of 14%. That's more than 220,000 jobs.
We've lost some wonderful employees that just couldn't do it anymore, they said.
Rebecca Ballard heads up HR at Silver Bluff Village. She says COVID is taking a toll on employees at the nursing home and assisted living facility near Canton, many leaving.
Whether it was their health issues or the health issues of their loved ones that they didn't want to bring COVID home. We also saw a decrease in the number of people that were interested in coming to work here.
Ballard says many working through the pandemic, going above and beyond with less staff, have burnout.
Very much so.
Nursing homes are facing a vaccine mandate for staff.
With this vaccine mandate now, is that an impact as well?
Oh, absolutely. Nursing homes have always seemed to be the industry in the healthcare sector that deals hardest with meeting the staffing levels that we want to have, and this is just adding to it. We had a couple of people turn in their resignation letters today.
Ballard says Silver Bluff is faring better than some nursing homes, with 90% of staff fully vaccinated. Still, that means the loss of dozens.
It's that we have about 22 or 23 employees that plan to leave shortly because of the mandate. Just going to get worse as it gets closer to the December 4th date of having to have that first shot.
To offset the problem, Silver Bluff is looking at new hiring, among other measures.
We're looking at continuing our CNA classes here, offering, continuing education, paying for their education to get certified.
Ballard says state lawmakers can step in.
They need to do something in regards to incentives for people to work in long-term care assisted living.
In the meantime, Ballard says existing staff keep stepping up.
We all do what we have to do to make sure our residents are cared for.
The deadline for staff to be fully vaccinated at places like Silver Bluff is January 4th.
The city of Asheville is issuing a traffic calming project for some streets in a West Side neighborhood.
News 13's Kristen Aguirre breaks down how that will increase safety for neighbors and drivers.
Now, residents we spoke to in this area call it a racetrack and say they're desperate for any help to calm it down.
Behind this busy Patton Avenue intersection is a quiet neighborhood that really isn't so quiet. 2 years. As of late, she's worried about the street and the safety of her dog.
He could easily step into the road, and it definitely freaks me out.
Even checking the mail is scary.
It's kind of terrifying because you have to lean into the road to check the mail.
These are the kinds of stories that help.
Lots and lots of requests to investigate speeding issues or other traffic safety issues, and that we have a significant backlog in doing those studies.
During this November 9th meeting, the council voted to implement traffic calming measures, like speed bumps to 5 streets: Florida Avenue, Dorchester, Moody, Riverview Drive, and Burton Street, where Michael Napolitano lives.
People use it as a cut through from Patton Ave up to Haywood, and they think that because they don't have any skin in the game, they can drive as fast as they want.
Fast is an understatement, he says.
Oh, I've seen people come down here 80 miles an hour, and that's not an exaggeration.
The city's saying calming devices like speed bumps typically reduce average speeds between the humps by 20 to 25%.
I hope they slow down on Burton Street, because I worry about my son getting hit.
The city also saying speed bumps should divert traffic by about 20%.
It just sounds like people speed racing down the road. You can hear the cars, just sometimes they don't even stop.
The average crash rate also estimated to decrease by 13%.
I want my kid to live.
The city officially voted to enter into a contract for the calming project during its November 9th meeting.
And the city is still finalizing where these speed bumps will actually go.